I think everybody in data, tech, or basically any other professional field has been there in the most boring presentation you've ever experienced. You just wanted to get out and do something different. But secret is, it doesn't have to be that way. There are awesome speakers, and you can become an awesome speaker in an awesome field. And today, Nausheen Chen is explaining us how to become better speakers and why it matters to have great presentations.
All around us, data is constantly gaining more and more relevance in our private lives, our businesses, and our careers. For companies, it is turning from a competitive advantage into a survival factor. Those who do not use their data effectively will perish. It is high time to get a grip on the data chaos. Every other Tuesday on Unfuck Your Data, Christian Krug interviews data professionals about how you can bring order to the chaos, thus making the most of your data for your company, your customers, and, of course, for you.
So, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and all the other listeners. Welcome back to the probably coolest data podcast from Germany, now also brought to you in English. This is Unfuck Your Data, and I'm your host, Christian Krug. And my today's guest has an achievement on her list 3 times, which is on my bucket list. I want to become a TEDx speaker. She already did it 3 times. She's not the traditional data person, but the message that she's delivering on LinkedIn and in her courses is very important for basically everybody who tries to get his or her messages across to other people. She's in public speaking and also offers courses on speaking as a leader. And I'm totally nervous because she promised not to judge my speaking today, but I'm still nervous. Please, a warm welcome for Nausheen Chen. Thanks, Nausheen, for joining. And what else do the listeners need to know about you? What did I forget in my introduction?
Thank you so much for having me, Christian. That was such a great intro. And yes, you have absolutely no cause to be nervous at all. So what did you miss? I actually do come from a tech background. Not so much from a data background, but it's a little known fact on me that my first degree, my undergraduate, was actually in computer science.
Oh, wow.
I just never worked for a day in tech or IT because as soon as I graduated, I already knew that I really wanted to be around people and I really wanted to do something that has to do with human interaction. Yeah. I just didn't know what it was. So I really took a meandering route. First, I was in the corporate world. For many, many years. Then I was an entrepreneur for the first time. I was a filmmaker again for many, many years. And then now I'm a public speaking coach. So those were some of the things that we could talk about if you like, or parts of my journey.
Wow. And you were a filmmaker and then went into public speaking. And now you also, this is what hooked me a bit, is like speaking as a leader. And you presented some examples on how people behave in calls or in front of camera and how they can do better. So for me, the first question also, because in data, we usually say we're not IT, we're not the tech guys, but we're also not the business guys, but we desperately need to get our messages across to other people who are also not data persons. So IT, tech, and business. So help me. How? Why is speaking so important?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the corporate world, one of the first lessons that we learn is that you have to speak as a certain role if you want that role. So if you want to be promoted, act and speak like you're already in that position, because that shows that you're ready, more than ready. It shows your talent and it showcases your best abilities in the best way. And of course, the one thing that we all do every single day at work is communicating, which is also the most neglected skill. It's the one thing that you can't get away from, speaking. And yet, speaking up in meetings, doing presentations, giving your opinion, or answering questions, those are things that seem to genuinely scare a lot of people. people feel ill-equipped for it. They don't want to speak up. They don't even want to turn their camera on when they're in a meeting.
Yes, I've heard that, yeah. And seen that before, yeah.
Because it's easier to be invisible, but that's not going to get you growth. So if you're in a particular department, you have a particular expertise, in this case, data, if you are only a subject matter expert, but you don't understand how to deliver your message, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. You're showing people, yeah, I know my stuff, but don't put me in front of senior management. Don't make me have a team. I don't know if I can communicate with them. You're showing that you're not ready for growth. And that's the big danger. That's the big red flag there.
So, but this is really, I mean, we've heard this message so often that also I think one person said, we cannot not communicate. It's impossible to not communicate, even by, as you said, turning off the camera and not speaking up, we're communicating indirectly. But why is it so, as you said, so neglected? Why is, as communication is so important, why is it so neglected? Why aren't we having courses on speaking in the, as you said, in undergraduate or even at school?
I actually get asked this question all the time. A lot of people, when they look at some of the tips and advice that I'm sharing that I've learned as well the hard way, that's one of the first questions people ask. Why are we not taught this in schools? And why is it not something that is stressed more? It's very much thought of as a soft skill, quote unquote, something that's good to have, but not essential. And yet, the biggest misses in your life can be because you are not a good communicator. You fail to convince someone of your idea. And so the idea never came to fruition. You failed to convince someone why your point of view was important. So you never got the credibility or the credit for that idea, for that opinion. The biggest misses come from miscommunication, and yet it's neglected because of a mix of things, mix of factors. One is that it's extremely difficult to work on your communication skills. It's not something that's very easy. I can't
This is the hard truth that nobody wants to hear, I guess, in your course. Okay.
Because we have picked up habits, communication habits over decades.
Yeah.
You've picked them up. I've picked them up. The way that we speak, what words we repeat, what gestures we're fond of, how we conduct ourselves, our posture, everything about the way we communicate, we've picked up in bits and pieces over decades. Some of those habits serve us. They might be our hidden strengths. And some of those habits could be completely going against you establishing your credibility, establishing yourself as a thought leader, establishing yourself as someone that people can look up to. But because it's a difficult thing to look at yourself, to really put your skills up to the test, we don't end up doing it. A lot of people are in denial. How many presentations have you sat through that have been a nightmare to sit through? You're literally looking at the clock, you're checking your email, you're like, when will this end? And yet, the presenters are oblivious.
Yeah, I can't.
Otherwise they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't subject us to that.
I can't count them. I have a favorite example.
Yes.
This was during my PhD thesis. We had a talk with a guest lecturer from other part of Germany, and he was working on one of the most interesting and hot topics of the time. And everybody says, oh my God, I read the topic. I said, I want to hear that talk. This is going to be so amazing. And we were in there, and I was looking at my supervisors and said, like, I'm going to fall asleep. Because he was delivering. And when we looked at the slides and the results, so those were scientific slides. There were quite some data on it, and they were amazing, like really awesome results. And he was presenting it in a way that it was so boring to listen. It was just one monotonous voice with no emotion conveyed. And here you see the interesting data, and this is mind-blowing, and you cannot unsee this because it is so important to the field, and this will, like, oh my God, I'm going to fall asleep. So yes, I've been there, done that.
Absolutely. And all of us have. This
Yeah.
is the one question that seems to unite everyone who's ever been in the workforce in any way, because people are oblivious to whether or not they're good communicators or not, till there's some kind of a wake-up call.
Okay.
So I have seen this through experience, through research. A lot of times clients come to me when they've gotten some really eye-opening feedback. For example, I once worked with a CEO who had a board of directors, and they individually, 2 or 3 folks individually told him, you have to work on your speaking skills.
Okay.
Your presentation skills are just not that great. We're not getting the info we need. You're not engaging people. This way, you're never going to be able to retain your position as CEO. People need to look up to you. They need to respect you. And they need to be able to benefit each time you speak. And none of that is happening right now.
Okay, so that person directly got the wake-up call from outside and said, hey, pal, this is the way you're doing it is not gonna get you keep your seat. You're gonna be kicked out. Okay.
Yes. So
wow.
Wake-up calls like that happen. And that's when you suddenly realize, wow, I've been doing this thing that is basically second to breathing and feeding, right? It's one of those things that you do every single day. And there are parts of it that I've been doing that are ineffective, that aren't serving me. It's a brutal wake-up call for a lot of people, for anyone.
Yeah.
So once that happens, the silver lining is that you can start working on your skill set. And it's absolutely something you can learn. There's no such thing as a natural speaker, as a natural communicator. We all learn. And that's the good news, because no matter where you are, no matter where you start from, you can absolutely become an influential, impactful speaker.
So bottom line is there are no natural born speakers. We can all learn to communicate. But this also means there have to be some best practices, some things that work and some things that don't work. And now I thought we don't go into data, but actually we're in it because it's like how are you speaking currently, and what are the things that work in communication, and then you can pave or make a roadmap to get there where you want to be as a speaker, or you need to be. I mean, that's the question, but I think a certain amount of wanting to be there has to be in the person. Yeah,
I agree. A certain amount of either wanting to be there, or maybe you don't really want it, but you realize you need it. You need it to get to the success that you're imagining for yourself. So I always say that your speaking skills shouldn't stand in the way of your success. They should aid them. But very often people are stuck where their presentation skills, the way that they're communicating, that's exactly what's stopping them from growing.
So there has to be, you don't need to be, your target doesn't need to be, I want to be on a big stage like Madison Square Garden or TED or whatever. But the overarching goal of maybe I want to become a team leader. Maybe I want to advance in my career as a subject matter expert and become the go-to person for data warehouse or the go-to person for IT infrastructure in my company. But your technical skills are there. But the communication one, you realize, okay, this is the one which is blocking me, but I want to make that step. And then you can start twitching or tuning in on these speaking skills.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So we have a goal, and then how do we get there? What's the? I mean, it's totally interesting to me, and a lot of stuff I've already heard, but differently than you phrase it. So, what is keeping us then from becoming better? Is it really the fear of seeing ourselves on camera? I mean, I hear myself on the headphones when I'm recording a podcast, and it's still strange. But I got used to it and I accepted that it's necessary. And also to hear my podcast episodes before releasing them, it hurts. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's actually a sentiment that a lot of people have. The first time that you see yourself on video, the first time you hear yourself, it is jarring because that's not the way that we're used to seeing ourselves. When you look in a mirror versus watching a video, it's different because the image is often reversed. So the image itself, visually, it's different. The way that we speak, our ears receive our sound differently from a mic. Yeah. So when you're hearing a recorded voice, you would know this really well doing your podcast. It's different from how you are experiencing your voice in the moment as you speak. So the actual experience of watching yourself on a video can be absolutely destabilizing, unsettling, because you're watching what you feel is yourself, but there are differences, and that's not exactly you. Yeah. And on top of that, you are now looking at yourself probably for the first time with a critical eye. We often do that in pictures to ourselves because we're used to it. We look at a picture, even if it's a group picture, the first person our eyes go to is ourselves. Even if the person we love the most is in there, we will first look at ourselves.
That's true. That is true.
So in some ways, we've desensitized ourselves to our image, a still image. Yeah. But when it comes to video, a lot of people don't create videos on a regular basis. So even if they have things like recordings of meetings, which is very common now, they won't watch themselves back. So yes, there is a lot of internal resistance. So for me, I've always seen it as a little bit of that seesaw, right? It's if you have a lot of internal resistance, which you do, but if the need is so great, it is going to weigh down itself in its own favor, and it's going to make you peel off that Band-Aid, rip off that Band-Aid, and actually watch yourself. Because that is step 0 to improving. You have to record yourself and watch yourself back as an exercise. It doesn't have to be that. I'm not asking everyone to go and publish videos on YouTube Shorts or TikTok, but you cannot improve unless you record yourself. And this can be as an exercise, or it can be just recording a meeting, reviewing something that you were speaking in naturally, and then watch yourself back and watch out for things that you might already be doing well and things that you can improve on.
Okay, so actually, again, this reminds me of data.
Yeah.
Like really, it's data driven. And for me, that's a huge bridge there, because it's just what you are saying is, it's just like in data, you have to evaluate where you are. What's the bottom line? Where am I? And you have to set a goal. Where do you want to be? Like, I want to be in that position. Speaking is keeping me. Where is my speaking level currently at? And then say, okay, here I can improve. This is working well. And then start working on the bits and details. And then again, probably record, watch, record, watch, record, watch, record, watch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Treating all of it as data is great because it actually distances you a little bit emotionally. So something I always ask all my clients to do is aim to create a distinction between the person you're watching on the screen and yourself. So because I come from the film world, I can liken it to the 3 roles that you play. You are always someone who is a scriptwriter. Yeah. You're also someone who's acting or performing when you're speaking. And you're also the director or the critic who's going to be like, that was bad. Oh, why did I say it like that? Why didn't I do better? So if you can distinguish and separate those 3 roles so that at one time you're only playing one role, so that you're not criticizing yourself as you're speaking. You're not worrying about the next thing to say as a scriptwriter while you're speaking. You're just letting yourself perform and speak in that moment. Same way with reviewing your videos. So like you're saying, if you can review your videos as the director and just think of the person on the screen as the performer, you separate that person from you. And all you're doing is looking for data, exactly like you said, on what have they done well and how can they improve next time.
That's probably the most amazing hack I've heard to this. Because really, like, then you, from their mindset, I mean, we all get this overstressed buzzword on LinkedIn and social media with authenticity, like be authentic. But actually at that point, considering your speaking as an acting role and say, okay, I'm not criticizing Christian as myself, like I messed up, I fucked up that part. Oh my God, I'm stuttering like a stupid idiot there. It's like, okay, there was some stuttering. Better learn the script better next time. There was an or I think probably everybody who's a non-professional speaker has these filler words where they say or in my case I laugh. For a filler, to get those fillers out and see, okay, hey, there I laughed again. I have to practice this more. And then say, okay, this actor Christian then has to improve, not me. That actor has to improve, not me. It's okay. I judged him. He has to improve. It's cool. It's very, very interesting take on that.
Yeah, there's a lot that can be said about the word authenticity. You're so right. We are always talking about it on socials. And it's, of course, one of the highest values to aim for, to be authentic and to be known for being authentic. But people mistake learned behavior for authenticity. Just because you've always used these filler words doesn't mean that they're authentic to you.
Yeah.
That just means it's a habit that you've picked up. Now, is it serving you or is it not serving you? Improving yourself doesn't mean you're becoming less authentic. If that was the case, no one would go to the gym.
Yeah.
So it's just developing specific speaking muscles that help you play that role better.
Yeah.
So if you look at every time you speak as a specific way of showing off your skills, then that's what you're doing. You're being authentic to yourself in terms of refining those skills that help you show up with more impact in those situations.
Yeah, I always say it's authentic. Being authentic is not an excuse for being lazy.
Yeah.
It's not an excuse for being lazy and not doing your reps. So be it in the gym, as you said, or on screen and talking, you have to practice certain best practices or certain routines which help you get into speaking and all that. As in the gym, you have to do your push-ups, you have to do your pull-ups, you have to do your bench press to get stronger. But that's not practicing is not making you unauthentic. It's cool. But now coming a bit back to the data people, you have some experience as you're coming also from computer science. Is it a field where, so there is this cliche of the tech people always being the more introvert, more silent, more afraid of speaking up? Is that true? Or from your speaking experience, is that just a prejudice?
It's a bit of both, as is the case with reality. You have to look at
there is no black and white in reality. It's always somewhere in between. Yeah.
Fortunately, right?
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
wouldn't want to live in a black or white world. That would be very, very scary.
And boring.
You have to look at what certain personality types are drawn towards.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there is a bit of that introversion that happens with certain fields and certain professions, because there are some people that would, frankly, rather be in front of a computer screen than work with people all day.
Yeah.
So certain personality types that might be drawn more towards introversion find it more to their liking to be in certain professions. And yes, one of those professions does seem to be tech. I don't know if there are studies done on extroversion versus introversion in tech, but yes, based on my experience, I do work with a fair number of introverts who happen to be in tech in some way. And I'm using tech as a more broader field here, encompassing data. I have actually worked with quite a few data scientists as well, who have been introverted or somewhat in the middle.
Yeah.
So it also depends on what you identify with. But that said, there's no direct correlation between being an introvert and not being able to speak in front of people. There's no direct correlation. Introverts can absolutely be amazing presenters, actors, performers, singers, public figures, speakers, and CEOs, leaders, for sure. So there's no such thing as extroverts being natural speakers. There's no such thing as introverts being at a disadvantage. It's just the habits that you've developed for yourself. And a lot of times for introverts, they do feel that they are drained when they're around a lot of people or when they're asked to perform. When they're in an on state for too long,
Yeah.
Introverts do report feeling more drained of energy and having to recharge their social batteries, having to recharge by themselves, seeking out alone time after public engagements. As an introvert, a lot of people have had to figure out for themselves what works the best. How can they not refrain from these public, outwardly facing opportunities, but also remain true to themselves and remain authentic? So, for example, a lot of clients that I work with who are self-reported introverts often tell me, Nausheen, I don't want to become a loudmouth. I
Okay,
don't
so
want
they
to
are
be
afraid of
someone I'm not.
Okay. But then at the end of the day, they are still awesome speakers when it matters.
They learn to be impactful and authentic in their own way. So to them, I say there's no agenda here to turn you into an extrovert. And neither do I want you to just put on a mask or play a role that you're not comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
It's about figuring out what are the things that you can do while still being an introvert, while still being true to your personality. What are the things that you can do to make your speaking more effective? For example, if you're naturally soft-spoken, then yes, learning to raise your voice, raise your volume when you need to present, when you need to speak, that's a skill that you can absolutely learn. You don't need to speak in that voice all the time. You can absolutely be soft-spoken when you're speaking to your friends, your colleagues, your teammates. If you need to present, figure out your presentation voice. That's one small tweak that you can make. Similarly, if you're someone who's not very expressive with your face, I work a lot with senior leaders who have been taught to almost hide their emotions.
So really be that, because oftentimes in tech, it's conveyed this image that tech is so rational, so dry, so technical. And so you as a tech person also has to be neutral, emotionless, but that actually hinders.
Absolutely. Because when you're speaking to an audience, they're an audience of humans, and people connect with people based on shared emotional experiences. Just like that very informed and knowledgeable person whose presentation you went to see, who couldn't engage you despite them being an expert in their field, extremely qualified, extremely knowledgeable. They couldn't transfer their knowledge to you because you couldn't engage with them. There was no knowledge transfer. You didn't walk out wiser or knowledge rich because their speaking skills actually stood in the way. So that's what we're talking about here, understanding what are the things that are stopping you from being that effective anytime in any of those settings that do make you uncomfortable.
So basically, it's really like, my example, building a toolkit. As you said, speaking up when it matters. It doesn't mean that you have to yell around in the office all the time, and you still can keep quiet and shut if there are things that don't matter to you. It's like, okay, I don't care if the office is painted green or red or yellow. I don't care. I'm feeling well anyways. But if someone says, okay, hey, we're going to remove the coffee machine, which you desperately like, then speak up. Or when you say, okay, your project gets canceled, but you have the data and the insights that this project will provide value, then use your voice to speak up and deliver the message, hey, people, this is an important project for us in the company. Do not cancel this project. Because if you remain silent in that moment, even as introvert, extrovert, whatever, your project will get canceled because you did not speak up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely having that toolkit. Because if you have that toolkit, you can use it, you can choose not to use it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't equip themselves with that. So every single time they need to speak, it becomes intimidating.
Yeah. And also, I think the point that we have to make here a bit is like, yes, you are coming from public speaking and big stages, but the communication we have doesn't only matter on, you don't have to become the next Seinfeld or Kimmel or whatever show host or sing on stage like Taylor Swift. That's not it. But to get your personal message over and to achieve your goals, it's important still to connect, as you said, to humans and get your message and your importance delivered to humans. Because at the end of the day, still other people decide on whether to promote you or not promote you, or promote someone else who maybe is ill-equipped in the technical stuff, or the, as we called it, quote unquote, hard skills, but better in the soft skills. So soft skills do matter.
Yeah,
Again.
absolutely. This was one of the first lessons I learned in the corporate world, where I was always one of those people who was never actually very scared of speaking up and presenting, especially presenting, because that's just something I'd been doing for a while. My first job was in radio, for example. So I was used to speaking and speaking to an audience. And because of that one skill that I had, along with other things too, probably, but because I never shied away from doing a presentation, I grew really, really fast in the corporate world at Procter & Gamble, to a point where I found myself in rooms I wouldn't have had access to at that level. At points, I was presenting to people that were like in the top 1% of the company globally. And I was a junior manager, and everyone around me would look at me and ask, why is she here? She doesn't belong here. Everyone would be 1 or 2 levels senior to me. And I would present, and then they would say, it's because she's good in presentation skills. Now I get it. That one skill alone can open so many doors, get you seen by people that matter, not just in terms of your progression in the same company, but also in other places. Anytime you go to a networking event, anytime that you do an external presentation outside of your company, anytime that you speak to management that could be connected to other people, is all an exercise in building your credibility, building your visibility, and growing in your career.
Yeah, there's also the thing that you just said with your personal experience, that you were like 2 or 3 levels below others, but your presenting skills got you there. And I think also it's quite sometimes people often use that against you and say you only need presentation skills and don't need the foundation. But I think you need both to be really successful with the basis, and you have to know your ins and outs of what you are presenting. But what do you respond to those people who bring this up and say, Nausheen, if you make him a presenter, he's like a balloon of hot air, and he's gonna climb the corporate ladder, and then we got all those balloons up there, and the people who really are experts are down there because they can't present.
Well, there are two ways of rectifying that situation. Yeah. This is probably the case in some companies, in some circumstances, for sure. So there are 2 ways of rectifying it. One is, of course, being an intelligent audience. And people are, by and large, intelligent. There's a reason why this particular stereotype of being a balloon full of hot air is propagated, because people are intelligent and they've seen people that don't have a very good grasp of knowledge just have this pomp and show and be able to sell anything or market anything. Yeah. And they get found out. So in the long run, it doesn't serve you, especially if you're working in a company and you're seeing the same people. You have to deliver results. So it can be rectified on that end by being an intelligent audience.
It takes just some time, but it's also my experience that those people, they deflate. Yes, they climb up quickly, but then there comes a time when they get deflated again and grounded.
That's true. And then on the other end, why are the folks that have deep expertise not able to express that expertise? That's clearly the lack of a skill as well. So on one hand, there's a lack of knowledge. On the other hand, there's a lack of skill. So I wouldn't say that they are best geared for growth, because no one is a victim here, right? Yeah. We all have full control of how we're going to learn things. When do we learn things? When do we change things about us? No one else controls that but us. So if you're not paying attention to a particular skill set that you might be lacking, no one else is to blame, unfortunately.
Yeah, just because it's overlooked often as a so-called soft skill, and I think the myth of natural born speakers is still somewhat out there. People say, nah, I don't want to become that balloon of hot air. But on the other hand, as an expert, it's your duty to learn to speak up, because you are the one who can call them out for just being hot air and saying, yes, it's nice that you presented this, but you're actually wrong. And here is the proof. And I can now speak up and show you the proof that you are wrong and that we should do it my way and not his way or her way.
Yeah, I love that example. I hadn't even thought of that. That makes so much sense.
Because then it's as an expert, it's your duty to learn to speak up, because else you can't call out people for bullshit.
Yeah.
Then you have to accept that they maybe are enchanting audience who are who have less expertise than you have, and they are charming them and enchanting them with their skills and selling them something, and whoa, this is gonna backfire so hard on us. But if you're afraid to speak up and or don't have the toolkit to speak up, well, then you're in trouble, because then this is gonna backfire at some point to you or the company. Yeah.
Don't hate the players. Learn how to play the game.
I love that sentence, really. So, but really, then again, we said, okay, the foundational level 0, step 0 is become aware of where we are good, where we are maybe not as good as we should be, and then improve. So maybe if you want to give away some hints, are there universal things that people can or should work on? I think we had one example of filler words, and I would say that almost everybody is using filler words. Are there any other quick hacks where you say, okay, if you want to improve, start with step 0, recording, and then work on 1, 2, 3, and there you go.
Yeah. So I would like to actually step back and demystify what good speaking is all about. And you can think of it, if you visualize 3 overlapping circles. So it's a set diagram, and what we're looking at is, on one side, you have your speaking skills. On the other side, you have content, so what you're actually saying. And then the third circle here is your confidence, both inner confidence as well as outer confidence. So being an impactful speaker comes down to your speaking skills, your content, and the amount of confidence that you have, or whether you've learned to battle those nerves. And then you can look at what can you do in each of those spheres. Some people do really well in terms of content. They're already concise, but they are lacking in the speaking skills. Some people are kind of okay, kind of average when it comes to the speaking skills, but they don't quite know how to speak in a way that is concise, clear, devoid of unnecessary jargon, like you said, not including filler words. So once we look at it in terms of refining your content, refining your speaking skills, and refining your confidence, then you know the steps that you can take in all of those. So when it comes to your speaking skills, it's about how do you play with your voice? How do you have the right kind of body language? How do you work with the energy? How do you have the right expressions? So those are if you look at it in terms of those 3 things, and then we can look at sub-skills that fall within each of those spheres. But that's a little bit of demystification of
speaking,
how to be a great speaker.
And then the content is really what you said, what you are, not only the how you are. So speaking skills is how you are saying things, how you are delivering your message, and content is your message. So you have to be clear on the message. For example, my message, yes, you can solve almost any problem with data. And then this is the content you have. So if you just are good at speaking, but don't have a clear message you want to deliver to your audience, your supervisors, whoever, then it's also, you can be the best speaker technically in the world, but they're not going to listen to you because you have nothing to say.
Yeah, exactly. There's there are a lot of people that end up rambling, or they start speaking first and then figure it out as they go along.
Yeah.
That's okay, as long as you understand overall the structure in which you're going to present information. This is where it gets difficult. This is where it gets complex to actually improve, because very often what we're actually saying is that you have to introduce a filter. Don't let the speed of your speech dictate, don't let the speed of your thought dictate the speed of your speech. So don't just keep talking the way that these thoughts are occurring to you. Because of course, we know our brains, our thoughts sometimes occur in random patterns. Sometimes it takes a while to get the right neurons firing. Until that point, you're just kind of feeling your way around. If you can learn to A, pause and gather your thoughts, B, understand how to organize your thoughts on the fly instead of just speaking out the thoughts as they come to you, then you're already taking steps towards improving the content of what you're saying.
So taking the speed out of the talking, like you said, stepping back, take a breath. This is the message I wanted to deliver. Now I deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last part that you said, confidence, this probably, I would guess this is the hardest one and the part that scares most people, is it? You're laughing.
Yeah,
I hit it.
Absolutely. It's the part that takes the longest because a lot of it is linked to deeper psychological challenges that you might have. And very often, it's easier to work on that outward confidence and more difficult to work on inner confidence. And this is something that I've experienced a lot of because, as I was telling you,
that's like a hard to swallow pill.
Yeah. Because I've been speaking and presenting and being very comfortable with that. I've been doing that for a long time. But what I learned first was the performance of outer confidence. I didn't actually get that inner confidence till much later. So as a result, I would be able to go on stage and present with this confidence and poise. And then the moment I would step off stage, I would feel like an imposter, like a scam artist. I would feel like I didn't really deserve to be there. Who am I to speak to these people? Why did I do that to myself? And then I'd do it again because I love it so much. But there was no inner confidence to back up that outer confidence. So yes, the inner confidence piece I've seen, not just through my experience, but through working with hundreds of clients now, a number of whom have similar inner confidence challenges. That bit is absolutely longer term work. But you can make some short-term strides towards it for sure.
But wow, I think this point is so important for a lot of people out there. Like really important. It is normal to be nervous. It is normal to get off the stage and feel like, oh my God, I feel like an imposter. It is normal. And we should, in my opinion, really normalize that feeling and tell people, everybody feels that way. One of my favorite sentences, like I said before my last talk, it's like, I'm scared. Okay, then do it scared. It's like, it's normal. Everybody is scared. And even if I talked to a guy who's doing stand-up comedy for 8 years. And just before his talk, he was backstage with me. I saw him walking up and down, just as nervous as I was. I'm like, okay. He's doing this for 8 years and he's nervous. I have every right in the world to be nervous as hell.
Being nervous means you care. Being nervous is not a bad thing. Your body produces the same reaction physiologically to nerves and excitement. So your heart starts beating faster. You start obsessing about the thing you're nervous or excited about. Some people start sweating. And that means if nerves and excitement produce the same response, that means it's up to your brain to label that emotion. So if you can reframe the nerves and tell yourself, I'm excited here. This is something that I've been waiting for, that I really want, that scares me, but I really care because I believe I can excel. If you can change the nerves to excitement, you're positively reframing the situation and making it something that you're hopefully looking forward to instead of dreading.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, again, the hard truth, it's not on the audience. It's not on the people who invited you. It's not on the people who gave the talk to you. It's to you. It's up to us. And we are the only person responsible for our performance there. And then also our growth. It's in our hands. We are the only person who can become better at speaking for us. I can't wait for Nausheen to speak up for me. I can't wait for my colleague to step in for me and get that promotion for me. It's up to us. It's up to yourself. Yeah. It's a hard truth, but yeah, it is that way. Just
for me, it's a great truth. For me, it's a reaffirmation of my agency, and I love having control over a situation. So if you're saying that it's really up to me whether I do better or I do worse, I like that. I have no one to blame, but that also means I am the one responsible for my success. Yeah. Who else would I want my success in the hands of? Hopefully I'm the best person who's responsible for my success.
Yes, absolutely. But also for a lot of people, it is quite scary. So it's like it's like comfortable to sit back, turn off the camera, let the other people do the talking and decisions, and just lean back and say, I would have known better. But guess what? This is not gonna get you where you want. So yeah, like you said, we need to have that agency over our own life, or in our own lives. We ourselves.
And by speaking up, you don't know how many others you're inspiring. Your team, for one, looks at you. If you are any kind of a people manager, you are responsible for speaking up on behalf of your team. You're responsible for giving them a voice. Your peers look at you as well. If you are investing in becoming a better communicator, you'll get noticed, and you might motivate others to become better communicators and better presenters as well. You're creating this great ripple effect of introducing great communication practices in your company. So there's so much that you can do by speaking out. So it's very much not a selfish act at that point. You're showing people what's possible. You can be an awesome engineer, you can be an awesome data scientist, and you can be an awesome communicator. Like, way to break stereotypes.
And I want to say, just add, the worst thing that you can do with that is have less terrible presentations at work. And that already is a win for everybody involved. If we have less bad presentations in meetings, at conferences, wherever, if we have better presentations, everybody wins.
Yeah. So true.
Nausheen, so I think that we covered a lot of things already, and looking at the time, I also want to finish this episode in an almost timely manner. But the people from the German episodes know that there is this kind of short ritual to get something to know about Nausheen behind the speaking coach. So just two small questions for you, and then you got it. The one thing is, which was the last song that you had running on repeat in your head and just couldn't get rid of?
Ooh, there's this one song I've been obsessed with lately, but it's by a very, very little known band called Brett, and the song is called Electric. It's a great song. Every time that I want to really focus at work, that's the first song that I play.
Wow, that's cool. I don't know the band, so interesting.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. Brett with a double T at the end. A very small band, but the song is awesome.
Electric. Cool. Thank you so much. And the second, rather a request than a question. Could you please recommend a book which we also, the audience and I, should read, with just two minor exceptions or two minor restrictions? One is that it's not a book that has been authored or co-authored by you. And the second is that it's no shady adult literature. So not that I say you are reading this. I don't want to imply, I don't want to get the notion that I think you read that stuff, but just to make sure that people can take the books to the office and not be asked interesting questions on what you're reading there.
Sure.
But apart from that, it's totally open, from books about speaking to fiction to whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite books on public speaking. It's called Confessions of a Public Speaker.
Oh.
It's by Scott Birkin. This is my favorite book on public speaking, specifically because it's written from the is this literally in a way his memoir, but also the lessons that he's learned the hard way by just being on hundreds or thousands of stages. Wow. So Confessions of a Public Speaker. Yeah, this is an awesome book.
Confessions sounds always great.
Yeah.
So I had my fanboy moment today, having one of my idols on the talk. So can scratch that off. Dear Nausheen, really thanks again for your precious time and the awesome conversation. I learned a lot, and I also hope the audience did there. And also thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in today. And you might know it. This is the moment where I kindly ask you to click subscribe, follow, or however that button is called in the player you're currently listening this podcast. Nausheen said she is on LinkedIn and she has quite some amazing snippets there. I really recommend following her and listening to her videos and watching them, because they are awesome tips also to how to improve your presence when you're in home office. I really learned some stuff there and already stepped up my lighting game because of her content. So absolute, from the bottom of my heart, recommendation, follow her. All of you who are not following me on LinkedIn, now do that. You will also find Nausheen's homepage in the show notes. And that's it for today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again in the next episode. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christian. This was great.